plundering for our own ease and convenience the precious resources of tomorrow. We cannot mortgage the material assets of our grandchildren without risking the loss also of their political and spiritual heritage. We want democracy to survive for all generations to come, not to become the insolvent phantom of tomorrow. During the long lane of the history yet to be written, America knows that this world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate, and be instead a proud confederation of mutual trust and respect. Such a confederation must be one of equals. The weakest must come to the conference table with the same confidence as do we, protected as we are by our moral, economic, and military strength. That table, though scarred by many past frustrations, cannot be abandoned for the certainty agony of disarmament of the battlefield. Disarmament with mutual honor and confidence is a continuing imperative. Together we must learn how to compose differences, not with arms, but with intellect and decent purpose. Because this need is so sharp and apparent, I confess that I lay down my official responsibilities in this field with a definite sense of disappointment. As one who has witnessed the horror and the lingering sadness of war, as one who knows that another war could utterly destroy this civilization, which has been so slowly and painfully built over thousands of years, I wish I could say tonight that a lasting peace is in sight. Happily, I can say that war has been avoided. Steady progress toward our ultimate goal has been made, but so much remains to be done. As a private citizen, I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road. So in this, my last good night to you as your president, I thank you for the many opportunities you have given me for public service in war and in peace. I trust in that service, you find some things worthy. As for the rest of it, I know you will find ways to improve performance in the future. You and I, my fellow citizens, need to be strong in our faith that all nations under God will reach the goal of peace with justice. May we be ever unswerving in devotion to principle, confident but humble with power, diligent in pursuit of the nation's great goals. To all the peoples of the world, I once more give expression to America's prayerful and continuing aspiration. We pray that peoples of all faiths, all races, all nations may have their great human needs satisfied, that those now denied opportunity shall come to enjoy it to the full, that all who yearn for freedom may experience its spiritual blessings. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility, that all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth, and that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. Now, on Friday noon, I am to become a private citizen. I am proud to do so. I look forward to it. Thank you, and good night.
President Dwight Eisenhower, ladies and gentlemen. I know that was a long clip. It was about 9 minutes. But with this podcast, we have time to listen to things a little bit longer, discuss things a little bit longer than a normal 30-minute episode on, I don't know, CNN or whatever. Or NPR, if you listen to NPR. Or Fox News, if you're a Fox News guy. Gal. Whatever. Was that not a huge warning? I think many Americans took it as that and developed some things through that. But when he started talking about peace through justice, Can we say we've earned that? I don't know. What was it? 2 years later, after JFK, John F. Kennedy, took office, he was assassinated. At this time, we were, in 1961, when this speech was written, we were, as the United States, in Vietnam. Kennedy was looking to get out, and they were talking about all that. Or Eisenhower was. Not Vietnam as much. He said avoiding war, yet war ramped up in Vietnam. It could be, I'm not going to dive into a big conspiracy theory, but it has been said in the past that Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't a lone actor. There's a lot of people that do not believe that. There's been evidence given, but we're told, through government channels that he was a lone actor. And talking about that Eisenhower and the warning that he gave us, which that farewell address was in fact, to me as I see it, and a lot of other Americans, that was a warning. Over 50 years ago, that was a warning. That speech could be made today and still be relevant. That's how important that farewell address was. So we have to, as Americans, as citizens, be more involved in our political actions. We have to be more involved to see our country prosper and move forward, and not let far lefters who want to eat babies take power. I think we're slipping away from that because we're a lot of times we're looking at issues with our heart and not our mind. Because nobody wants to see children locked in cages. Nobody wants to see children hurt. Nobody wants to see any of that. So oftentimes we work through our heart and not our mind. Okay, well, we don't want to see that. But at the same time, we have to know who's coming into our country. We, ladies and gentlemen, are at the top of the hit list among different countries around the world. And at the same time, due to our national defense, it's hard. Thank God for all the men and women out there who are working positively to keep us all safe. From your local police officers and firemen to, the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. A lot of things go into that. But at the same time, we have to keep government in check. There are things that have happened throughout our history where we have saw the overreach of government or the possible plan of overreach of government. There's a, what am I thinking about? Operation Northwoods. Google that. Read that. It's an unclassified document. Talks all about using drones and different things to attack America to go to war against Cuba. The Bay of Pigs invasion was a failed attempt to invade Cuba using other people to do it for us and to have plausible deniability while doing it. Operation Northwoods was a part of that. Read that document and ask yourself, is this what I want my government to be conducting? This type of operation. There are many things we could just talk about with regard of overreaching government, the bureaucracy of government, and everything that wraps up into it. Government's important to help all the citizens. Yes. But we have to be mindful. We have to understand that government is not always the answer. And that government should be held in check by its people. That's the way our country and our government here in America, that's been reigning for over 200 years, was designed. We can move on to Ohio a little bit. I was reading up on House Bill 123. In Ohio. It passed the House last week. I think on the 2nd of October, something like that. House Bill 123. It was titled Violence Education Students Act or the Save Students Act. And it's backed by an anti-gun group called the Sandy Hook Promise. And for many folks who believe in the Second Amendment and think it's an inalienable right for all of us to have the Second Amendment, shall not be infringed, then you'll look at certain groups who are really hard charging after our guns, like the Sandy Hook Promise. It was, I believe it was developed by, nobody wants anything bad to happen at our schools. We want them protected. We want them, and that's where we start to look at government using our hearts and not our mind. Do we take away rights in order to be safe? Well, what Benjamin Franklin say? Or was it Thomas Jefferson? I think it was Benjamin Franklin said, a republic. The lady, as the story goes, walked up to Benjamin Franklin and said, after the Continental Congress, and said, "Sir, what government do we have?" And he responds, "A republic, if you can keep it." Well, I think we're on the verge of, we're somewhere in between right now. You hear a lot of people say, "Oh, we got to keep our democracy." We don't live in a democracy, guys. We live in a republic. But it was Thomas Jefferson who said, I think, no. It was the same quote. Or not the same quote, but it was the same person, Benjamin Franklin. "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." Liberty being freedom that we all enjoy. Life, liberty in the pursuit of happiness. Hope I'm not getting too deep. I know about 30 people have already turned off this podcast, but it's okay. We're going to keep charging. House Bill 123 was signed by a boatload of Republicans in the House. Our Republicans that we put in office. Representative from the 40th District, Phil Plummer, signed off on House Bill 123. And when I was reading this bill, and I read the entire bill, House Bill 123. I don't know how many folks do things like that, but I do. I'm not going to tell you where I read this bill. Y'all know what I mean. You got your phone. It's taking the place of magazines in a certain room of your house. Okay, I'm moving on. House Bill 123. I follow Ohio gun owners because they seem to lean more towards how I lean when it comes to the Second Amendment. No compromise. Well, when you put in effect, when you're talking about safety and safety and safety, yes, we want to keep our kids safe, but there is a way to do that without taking out the family. Some folks in government want to eliminate family's choice. Who wants to send their kids to school and someone, a teacher, an administrator, a counselor, "Honey, do your parents have guns? Where are they kept? Are they locked up? You're safe, right?" "Oh, they're not safe. We got to get the police over there to take a look at it." And then we bring in these red flag gun laws where somebody can just say, "Hey, they're unsafe. They're talking about hurting somebody," and then they come in. They don't just come in and take Johnny's guns, because Johnny legally doesn't own guns. His folks do, right? And then they come in and take their folks' guns. I think there's a middle road somewhere in there. We have enough laws on the books already that need to be enforced. The current laws on the books, if enforced, would prevent a lot of the gun crime that you have out there. A lot of the crime in general. Gun crime is minuscule compared to other crimes and other weapons. But right now we are focusing on guns because that is what's all over the news. Because anytime something happens with a gun, they plaster it on TV. Guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are bad. Who controls that switch? We have to use our brain. As Americans, do we